Probably the most famous sonnet Dante ever wrote comes in response to another indication of the coterie that he was traveling with, where all of these writers of Italy at the time were they were conversing, they were corresponding, and they were exchanging ideas poetically, throwing down challenges, quite frankly, and picking up and saying, well, okay, I see what you're doing there, but let me try and develop that a little bit more. Let's try and move this forward. And this grand exchange was a culture of exchange was coming about. Dante gives us love and the gentle heart, sometimes translated love as the noble heart. And it comes in somewhat direct response, and he calls out individually in the poem the work of Guido Guinizelli, "Love Always Repairs to the Noble Heart." And so the poem needs to be understood in reference to that other, but it really does something quite new and different and develops Guinizelli's original concept just a little bit more, nudges it just a little bit further as the junior partner. Dante was younger. In this relationship is starting to perhaps outdistance the master. Dante was nothing if not competitive. The sonnet itself is right in the sweet new style, the dolce stil novo. He sticks with a fairly simple ABAB CDC rhyme scheme. But in that, if you just look at the sestet at the end, where it becomes the two groupings of three lines each, the three tercets, there you can see something he'll develop further in the rhyme scheme of the Divine Comedy, where the terza rima you can see in the rhyme CDC EDE in the first tercet of that sestet. In the first tercet, you can see embedded the rhyme that will be developed in the second one. So there is a kind of linkage between them, and that creates a sense of momentum and a sense of logic and order and organization, but also gives you an idea of, this is a remarkably complicated rhyme to try and work with. So to try and sound natural and fluid and flowing in it is that's a challenge. And again, in the original Italian, the the idea of it is to create a kind of smoothness and almost divine delight in the sound of the poetry as a way to approximate the kind of blessedness one feels in the experience of love or in the experience of art, which is all also tied into the experience of God, that kind of divine radiance shining through that Dante strove for, and that the Dolce Stil Novisti generally worked for as well. Amore e il col gentil sono una cosa, sì come il saggio il suo dittore pone, e così esser l'un senza l'altro ossa, com'alma razional senza ragione. Fa natura quand'è amoroso amor per sire, e il cor per sua magione, dentro la qual dormendo si riposa, talvolta poco e tal lunga stagione. Bieltate pare in saggia donna poi, che piace agli occhi sì, che dentro al core nasce un disio della cosa piacente, e tanto dure talora in costui, che fa svegliar lo spirito d'amore, e simil face indane homo valente. Again, I apologize for that, but you can see that kind of simple, almost crystalline sound as it flows along. You can see also in the sonnet form that sharp volta of the sestet. Bieltate appare, those sharp percussive sounds. Bieltate appare. It marks a turning point in the poem, not just in the rhyme at the end of the line, but Dante hammers that right at the very beginning to signal that something new is happening here. And this becomes apparent thematically as we turn to the English translation. All translations are going to be a little bit awkward. All translations are going to be a little different, but people do what they can with it. Love and the gentle heart are one thing, even as the sage affirms in his poem, and so one can be without the other, as much as rational soul without reason. Nature creates them when she is amorous, love and lord in the heart as his mansion, in which, sleeping, he rests, sometimes a brief and sometimes a long season. Beauty appears in a wise lady then, which so pleases the eyes that in the heart is born a desire for that which pleases. And so long it lasts sometimes therein that it wakens the spirit of love, and the same to the lady does a worthy man. Well, that notion of love and the gentle heart are one thing is significant. It is a development from the Guinizelli, who seem to have a somewhat oppositional or bifurcated notion of that philosophically. But here, Dante is saying, well, no, the divinity of love resides in the heart. And it is indisseverable. The again, you can do a side by side comparison to go into that, but you can see where he's really driving at here. He is saying that there is a divinity inherent in the heart, and that is different than Guinizelli, and that is significant for the notion of humanism that is coming, because this is ennobling of this is an ennobling understanding of love. The fact that it is one thing with love, with the gentle heart, and there is not necessarily it shining on one and being a one-way conversation, let's say. But significantly, what is really interesting in this poem is that we get some inside baseball stuff on it. We get some inside dope on interpreting this from Dante himself. He writes about it with some significance in his Vita Nuova, which is essentially his notebook of his writing, where he writes a kind of poetic autobiography and includes a lot of his poems, and then tells you, but this is what I think is going on here. This is what I meant, which is very helpful to the rest of us who are trying to figure out, well, what are you meaning here? And here he points out that, well, the two parts of the sonnet, the first part, the octet, and then the sestet, function very differently. He points out that in the first part, in the octet or the octave, love is all a potentiality. Love and the gentle heart are one thing, even as the sage here is Guinizelli, even as the sage affirms in his poem, and no one can be without the other, as much as rational soul without reason. Nature creates them when she is amorous, love as lord, and the heart as his mansion, in which sleeping he rests, sometimes a brief and sometimes a long season. This is all about the potential for love. It's all abstract. But it hits humanity after the volta, after the turn. In the sestet, it becomes actualized. Beauty appears in a wise lady then. Suddenly beauty appears and love is inspired in a human being, in a person. Beauty appears in a wise lady then, which so pleases the eyes that the heart is born, that in the heart is born a desire for that which pleases. So pleases the eyes. It has a kind of physical reality that Guinizelli doesn't necessarily dwell on terribly much. In Guinizelli's poem, the person is looking into the eyes of the beautiful lady and seeing a reflection of himself. Here, Dante is saying that it's seeing beauty and as a transport to divinity, not necessarily a reflection of oneself. And so long it lasts sometimes therein that it awakens the spirit of love, and the same to a lady does a worthy man. Which is an interesting little thing. After the gender disparity, let's say in the Guinizelli poem, you have this slight correction in saying, well, no, women can feel this too. Women can feel the ennobling aspect of love. Women can be transported and delivered higher up the realm into the divine by the power of love. It's mutually redemptive. It is accessible to all participants. Both participants are ennobled by love. Both participants are ushered closer to God by love, and thus they are both in the act of being ennobled, in the act of being lifted towards the divine. They are fully actualized human beings. They are fully human even as they ascend or aspire to the divinity. It's a remarkable image of intellect and love combined. The reason, the rationality, and the emotionality of love, all wrapped together in a kind of puzzle, in a kind of indisseverable link that hints at at a richness and a complicated nature of man. Man is not an animal here. Man is not necessarily even the subject of God. Man is a participant in the divine. Man is not God, but man is capable of aspiring to God. Love and the heart, God and humanity are one thing.